Victor Kane stood outside his luxurious Lagos mansion, his crisp suit glowing faintly in the morning light. He glanced at Amara, his quiet 22-year-old maid who always moved about the house like a shadow, efficient, respectful, and invisible. "Get ready, Amara," Victor said warmly. "I'll take you out for some shopping today." Amara blinked, startled. "Shopping? For me, sir?" Victor nodded, smiling. "Yes. You've been working tirelessly. This house runs like clockwork because of you. And I know today is your birthday." Her mouth fell open slightly as her eyes shone with disbelief. "Thank you, sir. God bless you." She rushed off to fetch her bag, heart fluttering. But on the balcony above, Selina had seen everything. Selina's silk robe trailed behind her like a storm cloud as she descended the staircase, heels clacking with fury. "Amara!" she shouted. Amara froze at the car door, trembling. "Madam," she began, but Selina grabbed her arm and yanked her back from the car. "Get away from there. You shameless girl," she snarled. "My husband is your boss, not your boyfriend." Victor's brows knitted, his tone firm. "Selina, stop this. You're embarrassing her." But Selina shoved Amara aside as if she were filth. "Don't think I don't see your plan. Waiting for me to make one mistake so you can replace me here." Amara shook her head rapidly. "No, madam, I would never." "Shut up," Selina snapped, cutting her off. Amara ran back inside, clutching her bag as tears stung her eyes. Victor watched her go, then sighed and turned to his wife. "Selina, did you really have to do that? Do you even know what today is?" She folded her arms. "I don't care what today is. She's a maid, and you want to drive her around Lagos like she's some queen." "It's her birthday," Victor said flatly. "She works harder than anyone here. Is it a crime to show kindness?" "Kindness?" Selina scoffed. "Which husband takes his maid shopping?" Victor shook his head, jaw tightening. "You went too far." He turned and left her standing in the driveway. Moments later, he was knocking on Amara's small bedroom door. She opened it slowly, eyes red from crying. "I'm sorry about what just happened," Victor said gently. "You don't deserve to be treated like that." Amara lowered her gaze. "It's fine, sir." Victor handed her a neat bundle of cash. 500,000 naira. Buy yourself something nice. Happy birthday. Amara gasped, hands trembling. "Sir, this is too much." "Take it," he insisted softly. "And don't let what happened ruin your day." Victor left quietly for work. Amara sat on her bed, staring at the cash in her lap like it might vanish. 500,000, she whispered. "God, thank you." The door was slightly ajar, and that was her mistake. Selina passed by and froze. Curiosity sharpened her eyes. She pushed the door wide open and stepped inside like a predator. "So," she hissed, "this is what I suspected." Amara jolted upright. "Madam, no. He just shut your mouth." Selina snarled, slapping the bundle from her hands. The notes scattered across the floor like fallen leaves. Selina's voice rose like thunder. "So you've been milking my husband? Counting 500,000 like you're some Lagos big girl." "Please, madam, it's my birthday gift," Amara pleaded, bending to gather the money. "Birthday gift? My foot." Selina spat. She swooped down, snatched the cash from Amara's hands, and stood tall. "You will not use my husband's money to flex while I'm alive." With that, she stormed out, leaving Amara trembling, clutching her apron as silent tears streaked her face. By evening, Victor returned. Dinner was laid out on the long dining table. Amara stood silently at the side as he ate. "Amara," Victor said casually, "did you get yourself new clothes today?" She froze. Her hand trembled as she set down the serving spoon. "No, sir." Victor looked up. "Why not? I gave you money, didn't I?" Her voice was small. "I'm not with the money, sir." Victor frowned. "What do you mean you're not with it?" Amara swallowed hard, eyes flicking toward Selina, who sat sipping her wine. "Madam took it from me," Amara whispered. The fork slipped from Victor's hand, clattering on his plate. He stared at her, then slowly turned to Selina. His voice came low, heavy. "Selina, did you take the money I gave her?" She didn't even flinch. Leaning back in her chair, she swirled her wine like royalty. "Yes, I did. And what about it?" Victor's eyes hardened. "It was a birthday gift. Why would you humiliate her like that? She's a maid, Selina said coldly. She cleans. She cooks. That's all. Since when do you throw $500,000 at housemaids like they're mistresses? Amara bowed her head, clutching the tray, wishing she could vanish. Enough, Victor snapped, his tone sharp now. Don't twist this. I was showing kindness. But you turned it into something else. Do you know how cruel you sounded today? Dragging her like an animal, taking money that wasn't yours. Selina's lips curled. Oh, so now you're the savior of housemaids. Victor the generous. Maybe I should step aside and let you marry her since you care so much. Victor slammed his palm on the table, the cutlery jumping. Don't you ever talk like that again. Amara quickly excused herself. Sir, madam, let me clear the kitchen, she murmured. Just then, a car horn blared from outside. The guard opened the gate, and a sleek Toyota Corolla slid in. A teenage girl in skinny jeans and braids stepped out, dragging a suitcase. Victor's eyes lit up. Talia, he called, rushing to her. It was his 15-year-old daughter from his first marriage, visiting from Abuja. Daddy, she beamed, hugging him tight. Surprise. Mommy said I could spend 2 weeks here. Victor's smile beamed with pride, until he glanced at Selina's stiff, forced grin. Welcome, Talia, Selina said flatly, her lips curving into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Later that evening, Talia sat in her room, unpacking her suitcase. Amara had been sent up by Victor to help her settle in. You're the maid, right? Talia asked gently. Yes, I am, Amara replied with a small bow. Talia tilted her head. Why are your eyes red? Were you crying? Amara hesitated, then forced a smile. No, I'm fine. But Talia wasn't convinced. My dad notices everything. If he sees you sad, he'll ask questions. Tell me the truth. What happened? Amara shook her head quickly. Nothing. Don't worry about me. Downstairs, Victor was in his study when Selina barged in, her heels striking the wooden floor like gunshots. So this is the kind of home you want to run, she said bitterly. You defend the maid. You fight me in front of her. And now your daughter is here to watch you side with servants. This is how you want it to be. Victor looked at her, calm, but with his jaw tightening. Selina, I'm warning you. Don't provoke me. That girl has done nothing wrong. You need to stop. Selina folded her arms, her eyes sharp. Victor, why would you want to take her out without even telling me? Since when do you hide things from your wife? Victor sat up straighter, voice low but edged with authority. Selina, I don't have to tell you everything. I'm the head of this family. My decisions are valid, and I don't need your permission. Her eyes narrowed. Valid. So humiliating me in my own house is valid? Giving attention to the maid while your wife sits here. Is that respect? Victor leaned forward, his voice like steel. So that's why you took the money I gave her. Selina didn't blink. Yes, and I'll do it again if you keep giving her our money without my permission. Victor's lips tightened. All right, go on then. Upstairs, Talia passed by the hallway and froze. She could hear her father's voice rising, and Selina's sharp responses slicing back. Her young face tightened with confusion. In that moment, she realized something. This house wasn't as perfect as it looked from the outside. The next morning, Talia woke early and wandered through the house. As she passed the kitchen, she spotted Amara bent over the sink, scrubbing dishes quietly. Good morning, Ma. Talia greeted warmly. Amara turned, startled. Good morning. Talia stepped closer, lowering her voice. Listen, you don't have to call me Ma. I'm just 15. Call me Talia. Amara hesitated, then smiled faintly. All right, Talia. I don't like how Selina talks to you, Talia whispered. Did she really take the money Dad gave you? Amara's eyes widened. How do you know about that? I heard, Talia said softly. Is it true? Amara nodded slowly. Yes, but please don't tell your dad. I don't want more trouble. Talia frowned, clearly upset. That's not fair. You work hard here. Amara smiled faintly and went back to the dishes without replying. Later that day, while Victor was at work, Selina decided to host her friends. By noon, 3 of them were lounging in the living room, drinking wine and laughing. Amara, Selina called sharply. Amara rushed in, wiping her hands on her apron. Yes, madam. Serve the drinks and be quick, Selina ordered. Amara moved quietly around the table, carefully pouring wine into tall glasses. One of the women raised an eyebrow and smirked. Damn, Selina, this is your maid? She looks too fresh. Are you sure she's not enjoying your man's pocket? Laughter exploded around the room. Amara froze, cheeks burning with humiliation. She tried to focus on the tray, but her hands trembled. Don't mind her, Selina said, rolling her eyes. She thinks she's special because my husband pities her. Another woman snickered. See how she's shaking, guilty conscience. Their laughter grew louder. Amara placed the tray down quickly and murmured, "Excuse me, madam," before slipping out, blinking back tears. What none of them noticed was Talia, halfway up the staircase, watching silently, her fists clenched. Anger coiled in her chest like fire. She had seen enough. That evening, Victor returned from work to find Talia waiting in his study. "Daddy," she said firmly, "you need to know what's happening here when you're not around." Victor raised an eyebrow and sat down slowly. "What are you talking about?" Selina and her friends embarrassed Amara today. They laughed at her, mocked her, called her names. "It's not right." Victor's face hardened. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Talia said without hesitation. "I saw everything." He exhaled heavily, rubbing his forehead. For a long moment, Victor didn't speak. Then he stood. "Where's Amara now?" "In her room," Talia replied. Victor strode upstairs and knocked on Amara's door. She opened it timidly, eyes still red. "Amara," he said softly, "is it true? Did my wife and her friends insult you today?" Amara lowered her gaze. "Sir, it's nothing. I'm used to it." Victor's jaw tightened. "Don't say that. No one should get used to being humiliated." Just then, Selina appeared in the doorway, her arms folded tightly across her chest. Her eyes narrowed, sharp as knives. "So, you've gone behind my back again, Victor," she said coldly. "Here you are defending her, instead of putting her in her place." Victor turned, his voice measured but icy. "Selina, why did you embarrass her in front of your friends? What did she ever do to deserve that?" Selina scoffed, tossing her braids over her shoulder. "Embarrass who? That girl? I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me," Victor snapped, his tone cutting. "Talia saw everything. You mocked her and let your friends laugh at her like she was trash." Selina's nostrils flared. "Victor, I am done with this conversation. If this is how it's going to be, then I need a break from this marriage." She spun on her heels and stormed into their bedroom. Victor followed quickly, his chest tight with anger and disbelief. Inside the bedroom, Selina yanked the wardrobe doors open with so much force they slammed against the wall. Dresses and blouses came flying out as she tore hangers from the rack. She grabbed a travel bag, unzipped it, and began shoving clothes inside without folding them. The zipper strained as she forced more in. Her breath came fast and harsh. "Selina, stop this madness," Victor said, his voice shaking. "You can't just pack up and leave because of an argument. Let's talk. Talk." Selina whirled around, her eyes blazing. "You always want to talk when it's about me. But when it's about her, you defend her like she's the queen of this house. I'm tired, Victor. Tired of competing with a maid in my own home." She zipped the bag in one hard pull, lifted it, and marched toward the door. Victor stood frozen, torn between anger and desperation as she brushed past him, her perfume lingering in the air like smoke. At the front door, Selina paused just long enough to spit out, "If that's the kind of home you want, enjoy it, with your stupid maid." The door slammed shut behind her. The house fell eerily silent. Upstairs, Amara pressed her palms over her ears, fighting back tears. She hadn't wanted any of this. Talia, who had been standing in the hallway, felt her stomach knot. This was worse than anything she had imagined. Victor remained in the living room for a long time, staring at the closed door. The hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the wall clock were the only sounds. He finally exhaled and ran a hand over his face. Talia approached cautiously. "Daddy," she whispered. He turned to her, his face heavy with exhaustion. "Go to bed, Talia. It's late." She nodded but lingered. "Are you and Selina, are you going to be okay?" Victor didn't answer right away. "I don't know," he said finally, his voice quiet. Later that night, Amara crept quietly into the kitchen. She gathered the dirty dishes from dinner and began washing them, her tears mixing with the soapy water. She could still hear Selina's words echoing in her mind, competing with a maid. Was she really the reason for the storm in this house? She tried to tell herself it wasn't her fault, but the guilt pressed down on her chest like a stone. Upstairs, Victor sat alone in the dark, staring at the family portrait on the wall. By morning, the house felt emptier without Selina's sharp voice filling the air. Amara kept her head down, silently cleaning and cooking. Talia wandered into the kitchen and sat at the counter. "Amara," she said softly, "don't feel bad. This is not your fault. Selina has always been dramatic." Amara smiled weakly. "I just don't want to be the reason for trouble between your father and his wife." "The trouble was already there," Talia said with a sigh. "You just happened to be the target that afternoon." Victor called the driver and asked him to pick Selina up from her mother's house, but she refused to come back. Instead, she sent a message through her sister saying she needed time alone. Victor read the message silently, his expression unreadable. Talia watched him, worried. "Daddy, are you mad at her?" Victor shook his head slowly. "No, I'm just tired." He set the phone down and stood up. "Come on, let's go get some air." Victor took Talia out for lunch at a quiet restaurant. As they ate, she asked, "Daddy, do you love Selina?" He paused, the fork in his hand. "Yes, but marriage is complicated, Talia. Love is not always enough when there's no trust and no respect." Talia nodded slowly, trying to understand adult problems that felt too big for her young heart. After lunch, Victor bought her ice cream, and for the first time since arriving, she smiled freely. But deep inside, she knew the house she would return to was still broken. 2 days passed with no word from Selina. The mansion felt hollow, as though someone had drained all the noise from it. Victor went about his routines mechanically, while Amara worked quietly, trying to make herself invisible. Talia spent her time reading in the garden, but every so often she would glance toward the front gate, hoping Selina's car might appear. It never did. One afternoon, Victor finally sighed and said, "Talia, pack a bag. We're going to see your stepmother." They drove across the city to Selina's mother's house, a pale yellow bungalow on a quiet street. Victor knocked at the door. Selina's younger sister opened it, her expression guarded. "She doesn't want to see anyone," she said coolly. "Especially you." Victor's jaw tightened. "Tell her I'm not leaving until she talks to me." The sister disappeared inside. Minutes later, Selina stepped out, sunglasses on, lips painted crimson, her posture stiff as stone. "Victor," she said flatly, "I told you I need time. What part of that don't you understand?" Victor took a slow breath. "Time won't fix what pride is breaking, Selina. You walked out without a word to your husband, your home, or even your stepdaughter. Do you know what that's doing to her?" Selina's eyes flicked to Talia, who stood behind Victor, silent and tense. For a moment, Selina's face softened, but only for a moment. "She'll be fine," Selina said coldly. "Children bounce back." Victor's voice rose just slightly. "This isn't about bouncing back. This is about what kind of woman you choose to be. Are you really this threatened by a girl who scrubs floors?" Selina's lips twitched like she'd been slapped. "Threatened? Don't flatter her. I just refuse to live in a house where the maid gets treated like royalty." Victor stared at her for a long, quiet moment, then turned. "Come, Talia. We're leaving." Back at the mansion, Amara was startled to see them return so quickly. Talia went straight to her room without a word. Victor walked into his study, loosened his tie, and sank into the leather chair with a heavy sigh. Amara hesitated at the door. "Sir," she said softly, "should I bring you tea?" He nodded silently. Minutes later, she placed a cup in front of him and lingered. "I'm sorry for the trouble," she whispered. "None of this is your fault," Victor said firmly. That night, while the house slept, Victor stood by his window, staring out at the city lights. He thought about Selina's hard eyes, about the warmth that used to live in them, and about how quickly it had gone cold. He wondered when they had started living like enemies. In another room, Amara lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She wanted to leave, to run far away from all this tension. But something in her heart whispered that leaving wouldn't fix anything either. The next morning, Victor left early for a meeting. Talia came down for breakfast and found Amara setting the table. "Did they fight again?" she asked quietly. Amara shook her head. No words, just silence. Talia sighed and sat down. "I hate it like this. It's like everyone's pretending nothing is wrong, and that makes it worse." Amara offered a small smile. Sometimes silence is how people protect themselves when words might break them. Around noon, as Amara was polishing the staircase rail, the sound of a car horn echoed from a gate. She peered out the window, and her breath caught. Selina's black SUV glided into the compound. Amara's heart stumbled. Selina stepped out in a flowing cream jumpsuit and heels, her sunglasses gleaming. The driver carried her luggage inside. Talia appeared at the top of the stairs, eyes wide. "She's back," she whispered. Victor returned an hour later to find Selina seated elegantly in the living room, legs crossed, sipping coffee like she had never left. "You're back," he said flatly. "Did you miss the house? Or just the furniture?" Selina didn't flinch. "I came back because I refused to let a maid win. This is my home, Victor, and if I have to fight for it, I will." Victor's brows furrowed. "This isn't a competition, Selina. It's supposed to be a marriage." Selina set down her cup, her voice cold as marble. "Then stop treating her like a wife." The words hung in the air like thunder. Amara, who had just walked in with a tray, froze mid-step. Talia stood frozen at the doorway, watching. Victor's eyes hardened. "Enough," he said, voice low and firm. "We will not poison this house with jealousy. Not anymore." Selina's lips curved into a sharp smile. "Then prove it." And with that, she rose and swept out, leaving the air trembling in her wake. The rest of the day passed under a cloud of tension. Selina drifted through the mansion like a queen reclaiming her throne, her heels clicking sharply on the marble floors. She didn't speak to Amara once, but her gaze followed her like a shadow. Amara moved quietly, shoulders hunched, feeling as though every step she took was being judged. Talia watched silently from the stairs, her jaw tightening. Something inside her wanted to protect Amara, but she didn't know how. At dinner, the air was brittle. Selina sat beside Victor, smiling sweetly at him while ignoring everyone else. Amara served silently, her hands steady though her heart pounded. "The food is lovely," Victor said, trying to break the ice. Selina glanced at Amara with a smirk. "Of course it is. She's desperate to impress you." The words were dipped in poison. Amara's spoon clattered against the plate. Victor's eyes darkened. "Selina," he said softly, warning in his tone. "What?" Selina replied innocently, swirling her wine. "I'm only stating the obvious. She looks at you like you hung the moon." Amara's face burned. "Please, madam," she whispered. Don't speak while we're eating," Selina cut her off sharply. Talia's chair scraped as she stood abruptly. "I'm not hungry," she muttered, pushing away from the table. Victor's voice was firm. "Sit down, Talia." But she kept walking, her footsteps echoing up the stairs like a protest. Victor turned back to Selina. "Enough," he said, voice low and hard. "You will not talk to her like that again." Selina's eyes glinted with mock amusement. "Or what? You'll defend her again? Do you hear yourself, Victor? You sound like a man in love with his maid." Victor's palm slammed the table, making the plates jump. "Stop twisting everything," he barked. "Showing kindness is not love. It's called decency, something you've forgotten." Selina rose slowly from her chair, her lips curling. "Decency? Don't make me laugh. You've been parading her around like she's special. Do you think people don't notice?" Victor stood too, his height towering over her. "Let them notice. I'm not ashamed of treating people like humans." For a moment, silence hung thick as smoke. Then Selina grabbed her glass and hurled it into the sink. It shattered loudly, pieces scattering like sparks, and she stormed off without another word. Amara stood frozen, hands trembling around the serving tray. "I'm sorry, sir," she whispered. "I didn't mean to cause this." Victor turned to her, his voice softening. "Stop apologizing, Amara. None of this is your fault." She nodded, eyes lowered, and quickly began clearing the table. Upstairs, Talia sat on her bed with her headphones on. But no music played. She just needed the silence to be broken by something other than shouting. Later that night, Victor walked past the servants' quarters and noticed a faint light under Amara's door. He knocked gently. Amara. She opened it hesitantly, wearing a faded night dress. "Sir," she said, startled. "Is something wrong?" Victor shook his head. "No, I just wanted to be sure you're okay." Amara blinked at him, surprised by the softness in his tone. "I'm fine, sir. Just tired." He gave a small nod. "Get some rest. Don't let her words stay in your heart." When he left, Amara sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the door long after it closed. No one had ever defended her like Victor did. It frightened her. How safe his presence made her feel. She pressed her hands to her face. "Don't be foolish," she whispered to herself. "He's your boss. That's all." But somewhere deep inside, a part of her was beginning to hope for something she knew she shouldn't. The next morning, Victor left early again. Selina emerged from the master bedroom in a fitted red dress, her head held high. She strutted past Amara without a word, but her perfume lingered like warning smoke. After she left for her spa appointment, Talia came down to the kitchen where Amara was preparing breakfast. "We have to do something," Talia said firmly. Amara looked up, startled. "About what?" "About her," Talia said. "She's trying to break everyone." Amara hesitated. "Talia, this is between your father and his wife. I'm just the maid." "No," Talia said, shaking her head. "You're not just the maid. You're the only person here who's kind. And she hates you for it." Amara felt her throat tighten. "That kindness might ruin everything," she whispered. Talia frowned. "No, her cruelty might. Yours is the only thing holding this house together." Amara had no reply. She only turned back to the stove, blinking rapidly as her vision blurred with tears. By afternoon, the mansion buzzed with a strange tension. Selina returned from the spa, sunglasses perched on her head, and headed straight to Victor's study. She found him going through files. "Victor," she said coolly, "we need to talk." He looked up slowly. "About what?" "About boundaries," she replied. "This obsession with that maid ends now. Either she goes, or I go." The room went utterly still. Victor set his pen down and leaned back, eyes fixed on her. "Selina," he said evenly, "Amara has done nothing to you. This is your jealousy talking." "Jealousy?" Selina laughed bitterly. "You defend her more than you defend your wife. People are whispering Victor. They think you've fallen for her." Victor's jaw tightened. "I don't care what people whisper. I care about doing what's right." Selina stepped closer, her tone sharpening. "And what's right to you? Ruining our marriage for a maid?" "What ruins a marriage," Victor said quietly, "is cruelty." Selina's nostrils flared. "So you choose her?" Victor's eyes didn't waver. "I choose decency. If you see that as betrayal, maybe you need to ask yourself why." For a moment, Selina's mask cracked. Hurt flickered in her eyes before pride buried it. "Then so be it," she said, and stormed out, the door banging behind her. Victor sat very still, his heart pounding with anger and sorrow. That evening, Selina called the house driver and left again, her luggage clattering down the steps. This time, she didn't say where she was going. Amara watched quietly from the shadows as the car drove away. She should have felt relief, but instead her chest ached. Upstairs, Talia burst into Victor's study. "Daddy, are you gonna let her keep leaving like this?" Victor rubbed his forehead. "I can't chain her here, Talia. She has to choose this family herself." For 3 days, Selina stayed gone. The house felt lighter, yet strangely sad. Amara moved about gently, careful not to disturb the calm. Victor worked long hours, then spent evenings playing chess or watching old films with Talia. Slowly, laughter returned to the mansion. But late one night, as they sat eating popcorn on the couch, Talia said softly, "Daddy, I don't think she'll come back." Victor looked at her quietly, then said, "Maybe not, and maybe that's okay." The next morning, Victor found Amara sweeping the hallway. "Amara," he said softly, "come with me." She followed him nervously into the garden. He stopped by the rose bushes and turned to her. "You've been loyal, hardworking, and patient through all of this chaos. I want you to know you are valued." Amara's eyes widened as she looked down quickly. "Thank you, sir." That means more than you know. Victor smiled faintly. And I'm sorry you've had to live under constant attack. I don't blame you, Amara whispered. None of this was your fault. Victor's gaze softened. Still, I should have protected you better. Their eyes met for one lingering second before Amara quickly looked away, her heart racing. She gripped the broom tighter. I'll keep doing my best, she murmured. Victor nodded gently. That's all I ask. They stood in the soft morning light, both silently wondering why the moment felt heavier than it should. 2 days later, Selina finally returned without warning. She walked into the house like a stranger, her eyes scanning the space as if testing if she still belonged. Victor met her in the living room. You're back, he said simply. Yes, Selina replied. Not because I forgive anyone, but because this is my home. Victor's voice stayed calm. Then come back as a partner, not a tyrant. Selina's lips tightened, but she said nothing. She climbed the stairs in silence. That night, Selina lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Victor sat by the window. The space between them felt like an ocean. At last she whispered, Do you love me at all anymore? Victor turned slowly. Yes, he said, but I don't love what we've become. She closed her eyes, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. For the first time, she looked small, almost breakable. Victor watched her for a long time, then quietly turned off the lamp. The next morning, the household stirred awake under a fragile peace. Selina spoke little, but her sharpness was gone. Amara moved carefully through her chores, and Victor watched everything with quiet caution. Talia caught Amara's hand in the hallway and whispered, Don't give up. Amara smiled faintly. Somewhere deep inside, hope flickered. The war inside the Kane mansion was far from over, but for the first time, it felt like maybe, just maybe, peace was possible.